Have you ever looked at your bank account after a long week of work and quietly wondered how things still feel tight? You did everything you were supposed to do. You studied hard, built a stable career, and made what seemed like reasonable financial decisions. Yet somehow the numbers never quite feel as secure as you expected. Maybe you bought the nicer house because it felt like the responsible next step. Maybe you upgraded the car because everyone around you seemed to be doing the same. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a small voice occasionally asks a strange question. If you're smart, why do money decisions sometimes feel so irrational? This is something many people quietly experience, especially in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. Intelligence doesn't always protect us from financial mistakes. In fact, sometimes it does the opposite. If you enjoy calm conversations about psychology and human behavior, that's what this channel is about. Here on Mind About People, we explore the hidden patterns behind everyday decisions. And if this kind of reflection interests you, consider subscribing so you don't miss future conversations like this. Because there's a quiet psychological twist most people don't notice.
When it comes to money, there are usually two types of smart people. One type sees money as a tool for long-term freedom. The other sees money as a signal of safety and identity. Both groups are intelligent, hardworking, and thoughtful people, but they often make very different financial decisions. The first person might quietly invest, live slightly below their means, and think about the future in calm, practical ways. The second person might still make logical decisions, but their choices are subtly influenced by emotions like security, status, or fear of falling behind. Neither person is foolish, but their internal motivations are very different. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman, who studied how people make decisions, discovered something fascinating about the human brain. We don't actually think with one single system. Instead, we use two mental modes. One system is slow, thoughtful, and analytical. The other is fast, emotional, and automatic. Even extremely intelligent people rely on the fast, emotional system far more than they realize. And when money decisions trigger emotions like safety, pride, or fear, that fast system quietly takes control. Imagine two co-workers who both receive a significant promotion. Their salaries increase, and both suddenly have more financial flexibility. The first person pauses and quietly increases their investments. They keep their lifestyle mostly the same and think about long-term stability. The second person also thinks logically, but something emotional happens under the surface. The new income creates a feeling of success, and that feeling quietly encourages lifestyle upgrades.
A larger home, a more expensive neighborhood, maybe private school tuition for the kids. Over time, their financial realities start to look very different. What makes this interesting is that the second person often believes they are making perfectly rational decisions. From the outside, each choice seems justified. After all, they worked hard and earned it. But the emotional brain is subtly guiding the direction. And surprisingly, these patterns often begin much earlier than adulthood. Think about the financial messages many people absorb during childhood. Some people grow up hearing constant worries about bills, job security, and financial survival. Even if they later earn a comfortable income, their nervous system still carries the quiet memory of instability. Other people grow up in environments where success is closely tied to visible signals. A nicer car, a larger house, or certain brands may become symbols of achievement and belonging. By the time someone reaches their 40s, those early beliefs about money are often deeply embedded in how they interpret financial choices. A person who once saw their parents struggle financially may unconsciously chase safety through visible success. Another person who grew up in a highly competitive environment may feel pressure to prove they are doing well. None of these motivations are irrational in a moral sense. They are simply emotional patterns that formed years earlier. And this is where the consequences slowly start to appear. At first, the lifestyle upgrades feel exciting and rewarding.
A new home brings pride, a nicer car feels satisfying, and the outward signs of progress create a sense of validation. But over time, something subtle changes. Higher expenses slowly turn into higher pressure. The mortgage becomes larger, financial commitments grow heavier, and suddenly the margin for error begins to shrink. Many intelligent professionals quietly find themselves in this situation during midlife. Their income is strong, but their financial flexibility is surprisingly small. And when financial pressure grows, it rarely stays limited to money. It starts affecting daily emotions, relationships, and career choices. A person who once felt confident may suddenly feel trapped in a demanding job because their lifestyle depends on that income. Stress can quietly appear in places people don't expect. You might notice it late at night while checking work emails again. You might feel it during small disagreements about spending or future plans. The body also begins to react to this pressure in subtle ways. When the brain perceives financial uncertainty, the nervous system treats it as a potential threat. Stress hormones increase, sleep becomes slightly lighter, and the mind stays more alert even when nothing urgent is happening. Over time, this can create a quiet background tension that many people simply describe as being busy or feeling stretched. Ironically, the original decisions often came from a desire for security. The brain believed that a bigger house, a more impressive lifestyle, or a certain financial image would create safety and stability. But emotional decisions about money sometimes create the opposite effect. And again, this doesn't mean people are unintelligent. In fact, many of the individuals who fall into these patterns are extremely capable, thoughtful, and hardworking. The real issue is something psychologists call emotional reasoning. When an emotional signal feels strong enough, the brain begins building logical explanations around it. The decision feels rational because the mind constructs reasons that support the emotional impulse. This is why smart people can sometimes make surprisingly risky or stressful financial choices. The intelligence isn't missing, it's simply being guided by deeper emotional motivations. But there's also an encouraging insight hidden inside this pattern. The goal is not to eliminate emotion from financial decisions. Emotions are a normal part of being human, and they often carry useful signals about what matters to us. The real shift happens when people begin noticing the emotional story behind their choices. Instead of asking, "Is this purchase logical?" the more interesting question becomes, "What feeling is guiding this decision?" Sometimes the answer is security. Sometimes it's pride, comparison, or even the desire to feel respected. And once those emotions become visible, something powerful happens. The decision-making process slows down. The thoughtful part of the brain has a chance to participate again. Instead of reacting to emotional signals automatically, people begin responding with greater awareness. Over time, this creates a different relationship with money. Financial choices become less about proving something to the world and more about supporting a life that feels calm, flexible, and sustainable. That kind of shift rarely happens overnight, but the first step is surprisingly simple. It begins with noticing the hidden psychological forces that shape everyday decisions. Because once you see those patterns clearly, you start realizing that financial intelligence is not just about numbers. It's also about understanding the quiet emotional history that sits behind them. And if you're curious about another hidden psychological pattern that shapes how people experience success and happiness, there's another conversation on Mind About People that explores that idea in more depth. If you enjoy these kinds of calm reflections about human behavior, consider subscribing to Mind About People and exploring the other videos on the channel.
This space is simply about understanding ourselves a little better, one thoughtful conversation at a time.